This is your host, Sarvesen, and joining us today will be IMU Pantai-Gleneagles scholar and Carnatic music vocalist, Shahanapriyatinii.
Hi everyone, I'm Shahana and I am currently in my 6th semester in IMU University Seremban campus, and I'm also the recipient of the IMU Pantai-Gleneagles scholarship in 2021.
Thank you for joining us today, Shahana. It's a great pleasure to have you today, as that perspective from semester 6. Since you're the fresh eyes at the IMU clinical campus, we would like to pick your brain a little and learn a bit about how clinical phase is done in IMU University.
Thank you for having me firstly. So, I started my clinical phase in March, and I would say the journey so far has been a roller coaster, as I have currently done 2 postings. So we've been getting a lot of remarks from professors. I think that's one thing that has been frequently happening throughout this.
Okay, you've mentioned quite a number of things there. Okay, let's start with how your transition from preclinical phase to the clinical phase was actually like.
Alright, so for my transition, there is actually nothing much, but I would say that I spent my 3 months of holidays fully utilizing it. So I did not really touch my books, which is something I regret doing. So to all the juniors out there, please do not spend your holidays fully not touching your books. Go touch your books and re-revise.
Touching your books, eh? Alright, so you did say about remarks being made by your lecturers and professors there. What sort of remarks were actually made, and why did you guys earn that?
As what I said before, I think most of us, we spent our holidays fully enjoying it. So when we came into clinicals, we came in with like 50% of knowledge from preclinicals still in our head. So at least that was the case for me. And when we attended our classes, obviously we would be questioned on, application of preclinicals into clinicals. So I think that was a bit tough for us. And I think one of the most frequent things that we would hear is, what did you all actually learn in Bukit Jalil?
I mean, it can be quite brutal to actually be hearing that, after 2.5 years studying in medical school and questioning the entirety of the knowledge you learned there. It's quite humiliating. How do you guys even cope with that?
Okay, that's a good question. But I think mainly, if I were to say, there are 2 main things that we would do. Either we would go out, have a good meal, and just try to forget about what happened, or enter a quiet room, shut the door, bawl your eyes out, and then come out of the room and start your day with a new motivation.
Tough life. Okay, before we delve any deeper into the experiences, why don't you give us an overview of what the clinical phase curriculum entails?
So firstly, most of the classes that you would have is called bedside teachings. So bedside teaching takes place in the wards where you'll have to go and cluck patients before the class starts, and when your professors come, you would be discussing the cases that you clucked with your professors.
Alright, as for the bedside teaching, do you have any interesting stories that you actually thought was quite bizarre or quite impressive? People always say that when you go into clinical phase, you'll be seeing all these pathology or diseases that you read in books in real life, and it's quite shocking most of the times. How has it been for you?
I think for me, the thing that actually stood out the most was when I actually got to see real life signs on patients and, talking to real patients and seeing the symptoms that we read in textbooks coming into a real life scenario was actually something great for me. And I think one interesting story that I would like to say is that I got to witness a real life CPR scenario, and I think for me at that moment what I felt was, honestly, I was just shocked. I was just standing there just witnessing it, and I saw how the doctors in the wards, they all worked together and they were actually taking turns doing CPR on the patient, if you know. But at last, the patient did not make it, which was the sad part of it. But I think witnessing the whole CPR and how the doctors actually communicated with each other was actually something very fascinating for me.
Okay, I mean, most people would be still in shock, or like, passing of a person and seeing it in person. How was it? How was the experience for you?
I think for me, I actually could not forget about that experience. I think I sat for like a whole day rethinking about it. I didn't even have like a good dinner after I saw what just happened in the ward. But I think, as you get used to it, you'll actually get over all these feelings, but it also makes you a better person, because you actually start to realize the hardships that the family actually went through, being with their family member who actually just passed away. You'll actually get to witness all of these happening in the ward.
It's definitely heavy stuff there, and getting used to it. How did you actually got used to all that though? The hardships and the pressure that you have to take care of the patient and not let that repeat and do your best all the time. How was that for you?
To be honest, what I usually do is I try to make it a point that I would go and talk to the patient's family, just to see how they are coping with their family member's disease. And that's when I got to hear different stories, and it was actually a really good experience. So I think one advice that I would give is, if you get the chance, try to go and talk to the patient and also their family members who are with them.
Well, those who are in preclinical phase, listen up, take that note. Okay, apart from these bedside teachings, what else is there in clinical phase?
Okay, we also have TBLs. TBLs are basically where you present a case also to your the rest of your group mates, and we also have assignments in clinical school. So your assignments can range from logbooks to case summaries and case reports and clocking sheets, and also like EBM assignment, and I guess that's so far that's the assignments that we have.
Okay, I don't have any idea half of those were, but it's a tall list, I can say. How are you even coping with all of these?
Okay, so simple advice is that try to finish your assignments as soon as possible. Like, try to break it down and do it every day, just little by little. And I think by the end of your 6 weeks of posting, or even 12 weeks of posting, you'll get it done somehow.
Is there any room for procrastination?
There is. I mean, so far I have not procrastinated. I can say that, because 6 weeks is actually quite compact, and you actually, if you don't manage your time well, then you would not have enough time to finish up your assignments and also study for your CA.
Oh, so how does the CA in clinicals look like?
Actually, the CAs are quite similar to preclinicals. So you have a CA for each posting. But so far, for surgery and general medicine that I've just finished, these CAs would be conducted on the same day.
Oh, okay. So how do you prepare for that? Just read books, like how you did for the CAs in preclinicals? Or is there anything different there?
Mostly in clinical schools, what you would do is, you are advised to do is read textbooks and also focus during your TBL classes.
Okay, noted. And there's always rumors flying about, how professors in clinicals are, very strict, and they're gonna not hesitate to make remarks if something goes wrong. Is that true?
Okay, I would say partly that is true, but maybe I could share like one experience that I have. So there is a thing in clinical school where you would have to text your lecturers before each bedside teaching, just to confirm their availability. And some lecturers would prefer a straightforward text, but some would prefer a more formal text. And I think everyone, you should just opt for a formal and proper text. So I did that mistake. I did not go for a formal and proper text, and I went for a very straightforward message to one of the lecturers. And I truly apologize for that. And the lecturer actually got offended with my text, and we got punished. My whole group got punished to clerk the whole ward the next day during our class. So we actually went to the wards around 6:45 a.m. in Hospital Port Dickson, and we managed to clerk the whole ward, around 30 patients, 6 of us.
That is rough. Man, I mean, how did your team take it?
I think I would say I'm very grateful to, have a good team. They did not blame me, for texting the lecturer in a wrong way, and they were quite okay with it. But I think we all divided the task and we worked together. And at the end of the day, it wasn't actually a bad experience. We actually learned how to manage our time better and clerk more patients in a shorter time. So I think we're quite okay now with clocking patients in 7 minutes or so.
Wow, 7 minutes, okay. I mean, I've been recently going to this, clinic kesehatan, and we're just learning how to, take history from a real life patient. And 7 minutes, yeah, we definitely need practice. But bravo to your whole team for that. And also, we hear that, in clinicals, when you go into rounds, there'll be this quizzes mode where the lecturer switches on to ask questions to all the students and go in rounds. How does that work?
All right, so yes, that happens. Basically what that means is during our case presentation, when one of your colleagues are going to present a case, they would first present the case, and you would also have to know something about the diagnosis of the case. So your lecturer would ask the rest of the group members for differential diagnosis, what are the investigations that you would do, and what is the management plan. But we wouldn't really touch on management plans for SEM 6 so far. But you have to know at least a bit, right? So we would get asked one-to-one questions. It goes in a circle. So your turn will come. And if you don't answer questions, some lecturers, they are still okay with it. They don't mind. But some lecturers, they'll actually tell you, you have to go and read up more on this topic and things like that. So I think that actually, somewhat gives you a motivation to go home and read up on what you're missing out on and, learn more about the certain diagnosis. But at the same time, sometimes you might get disheartened with what the lecturers say. But my advice is to, take everything in a positive way.
The advice, take everything in a positive way, might be hard when everything around you is 10 times more difficult, added with the stress and the workload. I don't know how you do it, but if you do have any tips, do share with us. That brings to my next question actually. So what actually gets you going through, all of this? You said 6 weeks, one posting, and every day it's ward rounds and a bunch of assignments to do. Also the TBLs. That's a long task. Actually, what gets you through this?
I would be completely honest. When I first went through my first posting, I was clueless on how I'm going to be managing my time and, how am I going to study? What am I going to do? But I think if you actually take some time for yourself and try to think things out and plan your days and plan your study schedule, I think, that would actually work. Because if you have a schedule for yourself and you're actually knowing what you're doing, then I think that would actually work. And what gets me going through all of this is that it might sound cliche for some people, but the answer is that I always look back to why I first started this medical journey. So as long as I don't forget, why I first started, then I'm good to go.
So, yeah. What actually got you into medical school then?
Okay, there are several things. Several things that you might find cliche, but everyone has a different story, right? So my cliche story is that I have relatives who are obviously, diagnosed with chronic diseases. I think most of us do have relatives with diabetes and hypertension, dyslipidemia, all these things. So I have followed a few of my relatives to like appointments and all these things. But one common thing that I've noticed is that most doctors nowadays, they do not really, give importance to professionalism. I think that's one thing that I have been noticing. Apart from being, good doctors and, knowing your facts, I think one really important thing is to uphold professionalism when caring for your patients. So I think that is the change that I want to bring into the healthcare system when I become a doctor. So I would make sure that, I'm going to be professional when handling my patients one day.
I guess that's sound advice, maintaining professionalism. I can only imagine the times Dr. Justin actually talked about professionalism and had this whole workshop on it. Yeah, every semester he does that. But yeah, I guess professionalism is indeed important. I mean, if you could give any words of comfort to the students who are, gonna get into the clinical phase of medical school, what would you say to them?
Alright, so first thing is that if you have passed your semester 5 OSCEs and you're going into clinical school, you have passed it for a reason. So when you come into clinical school, it's obviously going to be hard at first, but do not get disheartened and do not take things hard, and always be positive. Like, even if you get like scolded or anything like that, just think that, it's for my own good. I'm going to be improving myself further. And okay, for the ones who just finished your OSCEs, congratulations, you're done with OSCEs. And during your 3 months break, as what I said before, please remember to go through your notes again and keep things fresh in your mind, so that when you come into clinicals, when you start your posting, it's going to be much easier for you. You're going to understand the concepts better. So I think that's some advice that I would give.
Alright, before we wrap up, if there's any story or experience that you might have that paints the clinical phase in the best light possible, what would it be?
Any story? I think I've mentioned some of the most eye-catching stories that have happened. But I think one more thing that I would like to say is, when you come to clinical campus, you're going to have new friends, and those new friends are the monkeys in clinical campus. So please be careful when you come to clinical campus. But the monkeys here are nice to me so far. So be friends with the monkeys.
Okay. We've heard a lot of experiences and quirky stories that goes on in the Seremban Clinical Campus. If you could describe your 3 months in clinical campus in one singular term, what would that be?
Enriching would be the word. I've been able to realize where I'm lacking, and I'm starting to improve on that. And I've also realized how important it is to actually take the time, sit down and talk to your patients and listen to their concerns, because listening is so important when talking to your patients. And by doing so, you'll actually learn how to be a better doctor, a good doctor, and provide, the highest amount of care for your patients.
That is resoundingly inspiring. I should say thank you, Shahana, for actually sharing your stories with our listeners today. You've You've managed to paint a wholesome picture of how things go down in Seremban Clinical Campus under 20 minutes. I don't know how you did that, but thank you so much for actually being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. And to all the juniors out there, good luck. And I'm still in my journey as well. So good luck to all of us. And if you would like to reach out at any time, please reach out to me on my Instagram and I would be happy to help.
Thank you, Shahanapriya. And that is Sarvesen signing off for now. See you again in the next episode.